Dear Detroit Lions fans who don't appreciate Matthew Stafford anymore, 12 years, 12 documented injuries, probably a lot more, 31 fourth quarter comebacks, 38 game-winning drives, 385 times sacked, 282 touchdowns thrown, 45,109 yards, 3,898 completions, 4 head coaches, 4 offensive coordinators, 3 playoff appearances, 1 season with a 1,000-yard rusher, 1 season with a top 10 defense. Matthew Stafford finished his Detroit Lions career the same way he came into it, with the 32nd ranked defense at his disposal. You know, not all Lions fans are guilty of this, but the ones that are, you know you are. You say that he left you, let you down, left your organization, but he's not going to be the same person after his career is up. He gave 12 years to Detroit, and you still, to this day, you don't like him because he left. Look, I would understand to a degree if this is somebody that left something that they were building. This organization was asking him to go through yet another rebuild. He gave his age 21 season, his rookie year, all the way through when he turned 32 to Detroit. Injuries, offensive line wasn't protecting him, defense couldn't do anything. He had 1 top 10 defense in his entire career in Detroit. And there are still Detroit Lion fans that want to act like he ran away. He abandoned them. He didn't want to go through another rebuild. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. Why would you want to go through another rebuild? Explain that to me. Why? Why would you want to do that? The fact is, I'm making this video because I've been a Stafford fan since before he became the quarterback of the LA Rams. I wanted him in 5 years before they traded for him. And when they made the trade, I instantly knew that they were going to win the Super Bowl. And you know why I knew that? Because Matthew Stafford had 1 year with a top 10 defense. 1 year. And he had 1 year with a 1,000-yard rusher. The Rams gave him everything that the Lions did not. And if you think that makes him any less of a quarterback, then you haven't been paying attention. Because every single quarterback who's ever come into the NFL needs a supporting cast. They need an offensive line. They need a competent running back. They need a competent offensive coordinator and head coach. They need a competent organization run by competent owners and GMs. That's what they need. Matthew Stafford at times looked like he might have had that. But the truth is, he never did until he came to LA. It's why I've said now, pretty much since the beginning of the season, despite the fact that Matthew Stafford will never play as many years in LA, he'll never be a Ram as long as he was a Lion. He is going to be remembered as a Ram. Some of the comments that I've seen regarding him from Detroit fans, and again, not all of them are guilty of this. I know I'm friends with quite a few Lions fans, and this is not directed at you. But if you're somebody who's sitting there and saying, "Man, Stafford, you left us. This is your fault," like, I don't even have words. Actually, I do. That's why I'm making this video. He's not going to be the same. Like I said, the injuries he suffered. But let's move on to the fact that You aren't playing on Sunday night. You don't have your first playoff game at Ford Field in 30 years, if not for Stafford's value. So if you're sitting there acting like, oh, Matthew Stafford left us high and dry, that is BS. Take it from a Rams fan, because the Rams fan over here, while I absolutely love the trade, I was ecstatic for it, also understands that the Lions got more for Matthew Stafford because Jared Goff did not have that value at the end of his career with the Rams. As a matter of fact, he had fallen off a cliff and they needed to trade him because he wasn't going to bring him over the top. No matter how you try to spin it, there's a reason why Jared Goff was traded, and it's not because he's just a nice guy. He was traded because he couldn't get it done. He was declining so much so, had the Rams decided to make this trade in 2018 when he was on top of his game, they could have gotten Stafford straight up like a baseball trade with Alex Rodriguez and Alfonso Soriano. However, that's not what happened. Jared Goff ended up falling off a cliff. 2019 started to show it. 2020, he was done. He was not the same quarterback. I'm glad he's figured it out, but if you think for a second that that didn't impact the trade and didn't hurt the Rams' ability to get more for that value, you're sadly mistaken. However, that's not what happened with Matthew Stafford. As a matter of fact, because he's so great and he did all the things that he did in Detroit while getting no media presence whatsoever, because he did those things, teams like the Rams, the 49ers, the Panthers, the Colts, they were interested in him, and it raised his price. And at the end of the day, the Lions took that, they took the deal, they took Matthew Stafford's value, and they acquired a potential franchise quarterback in Jared Goff. They also got Ifeatu Melifonwu, Jameson Williams, Josh Paschal, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Broderick Martin, all of which will be playing on Sunday night against the Rams. Again, complain all you want. If you are ungrateful, if you are really that ungrateful, and you watched Matthew Stafford give his all for 12 years, and you have the gall to come out and act like Matthew Stafford abandoned you. Matthew Stafford was 32 years old, going to be 33, and didn't want to go through yet another rebuild. He is not the bad guy here. He's the bad guy in the game. I'm not saying to root for him. You don't have to root for him. I get it. You want your team to win. The reason I'm making this video is because I can't stand seeing people so ungrateful. Do you have any idea what it was like as a Rams fan all those years after Kurt Warner and Mark Bulger? After the greatest show on turf was stolen from that fan base? Do you have any idea what it was like to pray to God that Sam Bradford and his knee would stay healthy? Do you have any idea what it was like to feel great that Austin Davis and have false hope that Austin Davis could be the franchise quarterback? You don't. You don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't say this. Matthew Stafford on those teams would have done the same thing. However, we would have been able to enjoy football a lot more than we were able to throughout that Sosar Rams era. Now, the Rams have won a Super Bowl, and they're on top of their game, and they might very well end up beating the Lions, and they might very well end up going pretty far. Regardless, the point is, we've been there, done that. What I can't stand about this sport is when people are, and this is a beyond a contact sport, I can't stand when people are ungrateful. And maybe I'm to blame for that on my side as well with Goff. There were times where I felt like I was ungrateful with Goff. But the fact of the matter is they are not the bad guys for trading him, and Matthew Stafford is not the bad guy for leaving. And if you want to say it wasn't a mutual decision, that's fine. I'll establish that it wasn't a mutual decision. I'll assume that it probably was a PR stint to keep everything copacetic, not make Stafford look like a bad guy, because they already ruined that relationship with Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson all those years. I'll give you that. But if that's also the case, then how is Stafford the bad guy for not wanting to be a part of another rebuild? At some point or another, you have to understand these guys have a career. They have a legacy. There are guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame that have won Super Bowls. There are guys in the Hall of Fame that have won All-Pros and MVPs and Pro Bowls. Matthew Stafford was not going to get into the Hall of Fame if he stayed in Detroit and went through yet another rebuild. And you should be glad, because would they be in the position they were in had they kept Stafford? Probably not. They probably don't have all of that capital. I don't know how they would have acquired all that capital without trading away Matthew Stafford. So again, act like he failed you, left you high and dry. But the bottom line is that Matthew Stafford didn't want to waste his entire career playing for Detroit when the organization, who's had a history of leaving guys in the dust like Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, he didn't want to be a part of that. He wanted to go and actually win a Super Bowl. He also wanted to go and actually play meaningful games and actually have media coverage. And he did a lot for Detroit. He did a ton, an absolute metric ton of things that he did charity-wise. And he would tell the news organizations not to film them, not report them, because he was doing it at the kindness of his heart and he wasn't doing it for clout. And those that rocked with the Rams during the Stafford run in the Super Bowl appreciate it. And if you're still on that train and you still like him and you're not rooting for him in this game, fine. And if you don't like him, fine. But if you're one of those people that never liked him, never appreciated him, this video is absolutely going out to you. He didn't let Detroit down. The organization let him down. Simple as that. Hopefully, we can all look back and accept the fact that Matthew Stafford made the best move for his career. Wasn't a bad guy move. And you definitely better not paint him like he's some LeBron James when he left the Cavaliers. Because whether you like it or not, this was the best move for his career. It was the best move for the Lions in the long term. And if you're going to keep saying this was a win-win trade, then at some point start acting like it. Those are my thoughts, guys. I really have just had it. I wasn't going to make another video after the preview, but good God, get over it. For the love of God, Matthew Stafford gave his life to Detroit. 12 years. Do you know how long that is? I still can't believe we have people that are trying to act like he's the bad guy. Not in this game. I mean, in general. He's never welcome back to Detroit. All this. You sound ridiculous. You sound absolutely ridiculous. That's all I'm going to say. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, I had to get it off my chest. Again, appreciate all the Lions fans that support me on this channel. This isn't directed at you. This is directed at the people who have given up on Matthew Stafford entirely. Like, everything he did and everything he went through doesn't matter. That I have a problem with. And my reason I have such a big problem is because I respected him more than some of these other people did back when he was on Detroit. I defended him, and I know there were some other people that did as well. This has always been an underrated player. He's the good guy in this story. He deserved a happy ending. And even still, people don't want to respect him on the level he should be respected. Well, that's going to change. It's going to change.